Okay. First and foremost, I want to thank Dr. Heng again for inviting me to talk to this society, and then to all the distinguished guests. Thank you very much spending your wonderful time, busy time to come over to attend this talk. The Lost Kingdom of Mengkabong actually is one of the series of talk that I conducted. The last couple of years, I did a talk about the history of Sembulan, of which I conducted the talk here also. I did also a talk on the history of Putatan, and I also did a talk about the history of Penampang. So the history of Mengkabong is the fourth series of talk that I've conducted. All this is not easy. It took me a more high. Thank you. To get all this information, it took me about 40 years. To get the entire understanding, 40 years. 20 years, the last 20 years for me to bring back all the documents from UK. And this is the information of which when the British came, they are introducing new law, new information, and this is an information or documents that consider absolute by them. So first, welcome to the newcomer. I will talk in Bahasa and English, but anybody can ask both language. Okay, this drawing is done by Mengkabung person from Tuaran. His name is Azlan. He do this drawing using digital art. And then I asked, why you draw this drawing? He said, the oldest Mengkabung person in Mengkabong remember one thing, the burning of Spanish ship outside Mengkabong. Spanish ship. So I will touch a lot of interesting things today, but my theme is actually history of locality, which is Mengkabong, history of community, Mengkabong people, and history of people. I will list down almost 200 names of people who actually, after the British came, most of them vanished. Vanished meaning either they are no longer important to the eye of the British, or these people are considered troublemaker. The British doesn't want to deal with them. So the name list is here, dated 1880 and up to dated 1889. Before I start also, I just want to say thank you to my family member who supported me. My children are here. They are the one who do all this graphic. I also want to, and my son-in-law, and then I want to say to Aman Aftar, who I don't know whether you all notice, is my co-partner in writing a lot of the Sulu articles in the Daily Express. Okay, we start. Okay, I want to go back into time. People ask me, Shari, why you go look into history before 1881? I say one person inspired me. The person that inspired me, none other than Zheng He. Zheng He actually traveled this part of continent somewhere in the 15th century. So if China can go back into 15th century to look into their history, why not Borneo go back? So somebody say this is the replica of the map, a world map dated 1418. A lot of people argue about it, but somehow or other one person by the name of Liu Gang claimed that that map was the Zheng He world map dated 1418. As you know, before I go Mengkabong, I have to touch Zheng He a little bit, because I'm going to bring you all back to 1400 Mengkabong. Because in order for us to understand the current history, we need to go travel into time. And I just show you all if they are able to write the travel of Zheng He, and then they can share for the last 30 years that Zheng He travel all these locations. You look at the date. And then I also found out that Zheng He is a Muslim eunuch, and then he also a descendant of Muhammad Prophet. A lot of people doesn't know that. Zheng He actually is a descendant of a prophet because his ancestors were captured by the Mongol, and then they put them into service, and then he come from that bloodline 20 generations ago. So if you noticed, they came to Borneo, and they also went to Malacca. And if you look at the ship on top there, that is the size of Zheng He ship. Why I need to bring you all back to time, to Zheng He, because I don't want you to think the current history, the 1900, the 200 history. I want you all to focus back, bring your thinking back into 1400th century. I will quote two renowned historians. First, his name is Hector Sutherland. According to Hector, Eastern Archipelago, especially from north stretch of southwest and southeast of Borneo Island, with many of the inhabitants are regarded as people without history. This is according to her research. And colonial borders cut across shred underlying patterns of geopolitical relation. Because later on, I will show to you, instead of thinking state history, we think about global history. So now I try to introduce to everybody in this room about global history. But again, a lot of people say, oh, I'm not from here, because that timeline, 600 years, is not relevant because I'm orang Hasal. I'm not talking about political statement here. The existence of people in this part of archipelago is in the millennia. The only thing is nobody write down their millennia family tree. Karl Trocky, also another professor in Hessian study, he said something about no country history is so well documented, yet so poorly understood as that of a former colony. What they're trying to say here is like this. The European wrote a lot of information, but a lot of us here, the new generation, we don't understand what they are writing because their focus is more toward Western-centric, which is Western agenda. But again, the content, the context of their writing involve people of this area, people of Mengkabong and whatnot. And then that include North Borneo, of which we are a victim of, we call it historical paradox. What is historical paradox? Historical paradox means we have the document, but we do not know how to interpret the history. We have document, here is all the document. For your information, this is all my private collection. It took me almost 20 years to bring back a lot of these documents. And these documents, when the British came, the colonial people came, they put this one side, and this document considered non-existent. They create new rule, they enacted new act, they come up with new policy and whatnot, and they want you to follow that policy, ignore all this policy, consider gone and disappear. So we call it European intrusions. So Karl Trocky say, continuities of our history between pre and colonial period has been obscured by attention given to European intrusion. So meaning before they came, there is a set of history, but when they came over, there is a new set of history. And all this information, if nobody among us go to London or to Spain, to Netherlands, that is the three area of source of information that I get, then this information will not be here today. And another source of information that we can get actually is next our neighbor, which is Brunei. So this is where today talk I will touch only on three areas. One is locality. Locality on this subject that I choose is Mengkabong. Because the other series, Penampang, Putatan, and Sembulan, I already done it. And then I'm talking about community. I'm not just talking about one group of people. I will talk about whoever in Mengkabong, the entire community. And then I also touch about people. People will be, who are those people that rule that area, or who are people who are very important in certain period, but suddenly they are no longer important. And then the rule of law apply, which is the European law apply. My introduction a little bit long, but again, bear with me, because after this, we got a lot of magic trick here. What is North Borneo Sabah historiography? How do we account the emergence of North Borneo? So if we ask this question to our youngsters today, the emergence of North Borneo probably 1881, where there are proper government. That's, I think, perhaps what everybody say. And then historians rely on North Borneo modern history, which is 1881, 2023, 142 years. If you look at one of the book that I put on top of the table, actually, we go back into time 2,000 years. We compile all the great scholars of the world according to like Graham Saunders, John Crawford. We look for this Robert Nicol. We put everybody who are actually important during the 19th century, and we prepare a 2,000 years of history going back in time. And then it's not very difficult. People say, hey, Shari, that's difficult, because our counterpart already doing it. The Indonesia already doing it. The Brunei already doing it. The West Malaysian are already doing it. Only Sabah, we have not explored before 1881, because I think they're still talking about communal history, you know, orang asal. I mean, I respected that, but we need to move beyond that. So, based on our research, actually North Borneo history can be divided into three segments, three categories. One will be ancient history. That's why sometimes when people talk, we talk about who orang asal something, and then they talk about Sunda, you know. So we cannot put our story so big a gap. We try to put something which is very practical, which is very reliable, which is something that can be supported with document. So I separated it into, one is ancient history, which is before 4th century, because ancient history require a lot of archaeological survey done. And then another one is medieval history, 4th century. I will tell you why 4th century, because on 300, there's one stone found in Borneo, of which there's somebody wrote something on that stone that reflect early civilization in Borneo. And then there will be modern history. So today we're not talking about modern history. We are not talking about ancient history. So if there is a question on 4th century, I will not answer. But we will touch about history toward the end of medieval history, which is 1400 to 1900, because that is plausible, that is possible, because document exists. Okay, so where we get all these missing years document, we got it from reading antiquated texts, well-known classic manuscript document, and some of them you saw here. Later on, I also will show to you some document that we managed to get from Spain, of which they draw some of our ships. That is the ship. That is the ship used by our local people, but the British disallow them to use that ship because that ship is faster than their ship. And then of course very difficult to catch them lah, because they follow the wind, you see. I also will touch about a little bit about the community, which is the Bajau Sama of Mengkabong. Okay, I will touch a little bit about Mengkabong. I will touch a little bit about Mengkabong community of Bajau Sama. Who are they? Where they come from? Based on literature, based on whatever information that we gather. Then this is something always a little bit touching. The stories linger about the achievement of Mengkabong men who have had their day and who vanish from the scene where they have served the need of their time. So this is very touching, meaning these people in Mengkabong, those days, they were accomplished sailors, they are traders, they are, warriors, but somehow or other, they are put aside in a corner until so much so their history become obscure. Just show you the methodology that I use. One is primer source. Normally I will go to National Archive. Now just for your information, you don't need to go to London to get document. The technology is so advanced, you can get my daughter here to assist you. We can get a lot of documents from London. For your information, there are 5,674 North Borneo files in National Archive, about 1 million pages. We already go and check, two of us. I don't know whether this is working or not. Hopefully working. Boleh ke ni? Cannot. Cannot. Okay, we also visit Sabah State Archive. They also give me a lot of assistance. We also go to Sabah State Museum. We also meet a lot of kampong people and we look at their artifacts. And then we also visit some of the kampong. And at the bottom there is a cemetery in Mengkabong. You will be surprised because that is a Lotut cemetery. But again, the remain is a dayang-dayang from Brunei. It's a Lotut cemetery. There, you can see here, the bottom. That is a Lotut cemetery, but the content, the remain is dayang-dayang from Brunei. So meaning some of Brunei dayang-dayang married to Lotut people. So same also happened. Some of the dayang-dayang married Mengkabong people, the Bajau. I also visited Tun Fat Library. We attended international proceeding and seminar. We created digital repository, and we read a lot of journal and books. This is a map of Mengkabong, dated 1770. This map, the cartographer is Alexander Drampil, dated 1770. You can see over that side Mengkabong, Labatuan, Inanam, Menggatal, and Putatan. This is 1770. That's why I try to go back of which a time period where it's practical, because I cannot bring you all back to 1400, 1500 without any document, but the story ada, so I will share. So this is 18th century map, and then I got another 18th century map. We try to clean up. This is Captain James Barton map dated 1763, of which they also call Mengkabong two names. One is Dalat or Dallas, or the other name is Mengkabong. So now we know that Mengkabong also they were called Dalat before this, Dallas or Dalat, but they also call it Mengkabong. The name of Mengkabong, so many versions. So please don't argue with me. Allow me to say one version. One version is because of this buah kabong, the local people, or botany name is Acacia or Arenga pinnata, which is this and then they can do atap, and they can the Mengkabong, they can also do oil, and then they can do atap. I think something that is the origin of the name of Mengkabong. But again, I also heard the name of Mengkabong is two tribes bergabung or warriors bergabung. Some people say it's Nibong. Some people say a warrior named Kabong. So there are so many, but I will touch something practical again, which is scientific, because there is this statement by Alexander Hausen. Alexander Hausen say most often the name of places are related to original people that founded the settlement, and they can often be attributed to the landscape, animal, vegetation, or social activities of the area. So I decided to follow this statement, meaning because of the vegetation of that area. So I believe if you notice, when I go through a lot of photos and a lot of newspaper cutting, the early colonials like to mention Mengkabong. To them, Mengkabong, they always mention Mengkabong. They always took photo of Mengkabong. There are so many other photos, but this is the selected one. I just want to bring you back that this is Mengkabong. To some people, not important, but to the Bajau Sama, that is a country of which the main settlement of the Bajau Sama. A lot of people say Tempasok is the settlement of Bajau. That is not wrong, but they have to mention another place, which is Mengkabong. Mengkabong, Tempasok, always the chief settlement of the Bajau Sama. Or before we go to the ship. So this is what I told you, the oral history that we heard. Because I need to share oral history first before I supported this information to the actual story. Mengkabong is always a history about war, displacement, migration, and settlement. I will tell you what happened. Which war are you talking about, Shari? What displacement are you talking about? What migration are you talking about? What settlement are you talking about? The earliest history about this West Coast, they didn't mention Mengkabong, but West Coast is the marriage of the daughter of the old Sultan of Johor with the Sultan of Brunei. This thing happened in 14th century, and the entourage is Orang Laut and the Bajau Sama. So the existence of earliest recorded statement about Orang Laut is dated 14th century, which is the very beginning of the Islamic Brunei Empire. I need to be very careful, non-Islamic Brunei and Islamic Brunei Empire. And then there are also a talk about a great warrior by the name of Nakhoda Ragam. This Nakhoda Ragam, actually a lot of people thought that he is a normal warrior, but in actual fact, he is the Sultan of Brunei under the name of Bolkiah. And he actually conquered North Borneo 21 times. 21 times. Not easy to conquer North Borneo. Took them 21 times. I get this information from Syed Awang Semau. So they attacked North Borneo 21 times, then they managed to get. But they not just attack North Borneo, they also attack Palawan, they also attack Manila, Luzon, and they also attack Sulu and Maguindanao. But again, later on, when there is a little bit of peacetime, the Datuk from Borneo purchased Manila. And they also purchased Luzon. And we will touch about other stories later. His descendant become the descendants of the Raja of Manila, Bolkiah children. And then we also talk about another great warrior, they call it Bendahara Raja Sakam. This is oral history first, but I will support with the facts after this. Bendahara Raja Sakam is another great warrior. In 1578, Brunei almost collapsed under the onslaught of the Spain, 1578. But some way, out of nowhere, there is this Bendahara Sakam camp and attack the Spain, and they lost the Spain army. So perhaps when we saw the earlier picture of the Spain ship burn was during the Bendahara circumstance, because that is the earlier period where the Spain came over. But that battle against Spain is not one time. According to legend and oral history from Mengkabong, the battle against Spain took almost 300 years. So meaning we have warrior from Mengkabong, unnamed warrior. We do not know who is that warrior. Some of the descendants could be in this room, fought against Spain. Why? I will tell you the story again why. Then there is another big war happened here in Borneo. They call it Kinarut War or Cermin War. A lot of people thought, oh, Cermin is somewhere next to Brunei. But this war took 13 years. Why it took 13 years? Because the war actually continued in Kinarut. Kinarut is in North Borneo. So it took 13 years for this war to end, and that is a war between Sultan Hakumuddin and Sultan Muhyiddin. I will tell you later because I will touch a little bit about genealogy after this. But Sultan Hakumuddin actually is the descendant again to Raja Sulaiman. Remember Manila, the Lakandula Raja Sulaiman. Then we go back to the 18th century. There is a war between Spain in Manila with Brunei, headed by Pihin Orang Kaya di Gadong Liwadin. I checked the background of Pihin Orang Kaya di Gadong Liwadin. He's a descendant of Datuk Godam, and his family tree is up to 1600, unbroken until to this very day. So meaning another interesting facts about local history here is genealogy history. A lot of people does not, they thought that it doesn't exist, but actually exists because I saw with my own two eyes. This group have a family tree up to 30, 40 generations. It's unbroken, I see it with my own eyes. And then another important event happened in 1775. I don't know whether a lot of people remember because this Alexander Graham Peel supposed to open up Belambangan, but somehow or other EIC doesn't like his idea. They changed him to John Herbert, and then John Herbert somehow or other sell opium and guns and weaponry against the agreement with the Sulu. So they sent Datuk Tating to attack Belambangan 1775, but it doesn't stop there. Datuk Tating go all the way to Brunei, in an attempt to attack, but actually it doesn't really materialize. And then another story, a descendant of Sharif Osman who attacked Mangatal. This is another story that we get from Brunei. And then there is a legend of Raja Tua Mengkabong. That's the reason why we call this story the Lost Kingdom, because there is a Raja in Mengkabong. They call it Pangeran Abdul Mumin Amirul Faza. He is the son of a prime minister. He sent him to Mangatal, and then there is also a similarity of time period. When we arrange a timeline, there is another story in Tempasuk. They call it Raja Ismail. A lot of people ask me, hey Shari, how come the timeline Raja Ismail and Mumin Amirul Faza is almost the same? Yeah, they are almost the same because we found the origin of Raja Ismail. I will share you the story of Raja Ismail. Because here is oral, then later on we'll share you facts. There is also document story about Pangeran Anak Siti Khatijah. We also heard about Pangeran Abdul Rauf. We heard about Pangeran Abdul Rajid. We heard about Pangeran Jalaluddin. We also heard about Pangeran Siti Fatimah. We heard about Karambunai. We also talk about Suang Lotut. We also heard about the story of Bajau Sama warriors. And somebody told me also there is a history of Laksmana Zaini, a history about Datuk Temenggung, Datuk Bendara, Datuk Syahbandar, and many others. But that is name mentioned. There's a lot of work need to be done to uncover the stories behind it. So if you see the replica of the ship that we bring over, we got it from here. Okay? So one of the ship is this one. Dia dapat? Huh? Oh, okay. So they call it Parao Merchante. Okay? They got Lantaka. You can see over that side. And here they call it Pancho Pirata Melayu. So the replica is that I want to thank Abang Sahar here, of which we commissioned him to get one of the best carpenter to do the ship for us. So thank you to Abang Sahar. So you see, this is a lot of this ship actually ply this water, but later on you never seen them anymore because there is a prohibition issued by the chartered company. If you want to use this ship, you have to register. If you want to register, you have to pay tax. Every time you go to the port, you have to pay tax. So they are not happy. They are angry. How come I use ship, and then every time I landed to the port, you ask me to pay? So and then I need to register the ship, you know. So if the ship not registered, the chartered company going to shoot down the ship, you know. So might as well don't use that ship. Now, just now we heard oral story from 1400 to 14th century to 19th century. Then I want to show you how the spread of Islam from 14th to 16th century. This is where I mentioned don't look at history as state history, but look at history, global history. Why? When the moment we open up the spread of Islam from Samudra here, you know, from Malacca, from Temasek, Bangka Belitung, Palembang, Brunei, Mindanao, Palawan, even go to Sulawesi. And then there is this professor, his name is Professor Thomas Arnold, that 1896. He say there are difference between the spread of Islamic society and the spread of Islamic religion. The spread of Islamic religion normally peaceful. Religion spread peace. But again, the moment you mention about Islamic society, the people who spread the religion, some of them have to undergo war among with the colonial and with the European and among each other. I will show you also. So this is the thing that I mentioned about war, displacement, migration, and settlement. When there is war happen somewhere, some people move. So there's a lot of war happening in this area, and there's people move. So we never know. So I just choose 11 sultanate from the 14th to 20th century. People only probably know Sulu Sultanate. I'm sorry, I'm not talking about Sulu story today. But I want to share also so many other sultanate that around this archipelago. And you look at the map, that is the location of the sultanate, and ship travel along all these areas. So when ship travel, threat happen. When threat happen, this is what we call it maritime threat. That's why one of the golden rule of reconstructing history is go back to maritime era, where there is always threat. When there is threat, then you can trace back where the thing come from. Where is the origin of item sold. So we got Patani Sultanate from 1500 to 1900. We got Malacca Sultanate from 1400 to 1511. And Malacca Sultanate, their army is all orang laut, you know, which is the Bajau Sama. But of course, I will tell you why Bajau Sama, why orang laut later on. We got Aceh Sultanate, which is 1496 to 1903. We got Pagaruyung Sultanate. Pagaruyung Sultanate is in Sumatra. We got Siak Sultanate. Siak Sultanate is very interesting because Raja Ismail, based on my research, the Raja of Tampasok, originally from Siak. I got the evidence because I bring back the book from Netherlands. There are only two books exist in this world. One is in somewhere in West Malaysia, and one of the book is in Netherlands. So in Netherlands, they talk about the family tree of Raja Ismail and how he lost his hand in the Battle of Tanjung Pinang against the Dutch, where he never come back to Tempasok after the war. Then we go into Banten Sultanate, 1500 to 1800, Mataram Sultanate, Demak Sultanate, Ternate Sultanate, Brunei Sultanate, and Sulu Sultanate. So feudal kingdom is not just Brunei and Sulu. The feudal kingdom that we're talking about during the medieval history are those that listed here from 14th to 20th century. This is another long lost history. A lot of people ask me, hey Shari, Sulu Sea, so east coast of Malaysia belong to, North Borneo belong to Sulu because they got Sulu, Sulu east coast. So the west coast, who covered this area? A lot of people, based on references, John Crawford, Hector Sutherland, Peter Brosberg, Jock de Cotter, John and Mixkick, Leonard Andaya, Karl Trocky, there is another important place of the Bajau Sama. This is the place. They call it Pulau Tujuh, Natuna, Kepulauan Andabas, Bangka Belitung. This is the center of Bajau Sama army, warriors. And they cover the South China Sea. Whoever go to South China Sea, don't say hello, hello to the Bajau Sama, they cannot read it. So, and then I will show you the distance between, they say, hey, Shari, Johor to North Borneo, not critical, very far. Okay, never mind. I will calculate the distance. So that is the distance. 700 kilometers, 600 kilometers from Natuna to Spratly Highland, 600 kilometers to Kuala Lumpur, 500 kilometers to Johor. So meaning that area is a stopping center for ship to repair, ship to, and then it's a shipbuilding community. And then that area actually much nearer to Malaysia. But because of the 1824 treaty between the British and the Dutch, when after the Second World War, Indonesia get the independence first, Malaysia never have the opportunity to talk about this interesting area because they talk Malay here in this area. And they are much nearer to Malaysia. And if you look at their culture is like Malaysian people. So I want to touch about the literature again. Just now we also already look at the oral history. I bring you back to the spread of Islam. I also bring you to Natuna and Annabas Island. Now I want to touch a few comments from two of the renowned colonial people who came to North Borneo. One of them is Spencer St. John, dated 1851. The book came out 1863. According to Spencer St. John, and then this is not what Spencer St. John said. This is another one person, a Spanish priest. His name is Cotron. Cotton always accompanies Spencer St. John. So what Cotton and Spencer St. John say, Mengkabung and Tempasok are the chief port of the Bajau. Bajau is the Bajau. Though these people are scattered in many other districts, both on this and the northeastern coast. So Spencer St. John say that the Bajau of Mengkabung Tempasok, they don't exist only in the west coast. The Bajau of Tempasok and Mengkabung also exist in the east coast. A lot of people thought there's only one Bajau tribe, but in actual fact, based on research by Professor Leonard Andaya and the wife Barbara Andaya from the University of Hawaii, Bajau actually come from many tribes. That's why very difficult to manage the Bajau unless you have a great leader. I'm sorry, but this is a compliment against the Bajau.
if you have a great leader, they can unite. Because there is a statement by Spencer about if the Bajau people are put under steady government, they can become a very good people. Secondly, both the people of Bangi and Mengkabau, Bangi is in Kudat, are claimed by the Brunei government as its subject. So meaning, the Mengkabung people are actually Brunei citizens until 1898, which is after 1878. The proof is here, the document is here. They are only become the British subject after 1898, or the Chartered Company subject. The Bajau, the Brunei minister say, they're jealous against the Bajau Mengkabung. They say if Bajau Mengkabung near, we might share the plunder by the Mengkabung people, because when Mengkabung people always attack ship. I tell you one funny story, according to Spencer St. John. One ship, there is 2 people inside the ship. They fought against the people. The ship supposed to go to Cagayan, and somehow or other, one killed the Mengkabung people, one king, and the other one managed to swam ashore and tell the Mengkabung people, hello, tolong, ada orang jahat di kapal. The entire Mengkabung village alive took a ship and attacked and burned the ship and killed everybody on board. And then later, Quatron asked the leader of the ringleader who attacked the ship, why you attack the ship? Wait a moment, according to the ringleader. Let me ask the person who swim from the ship, what happened? He said, we gamble, we lost. We lost, and then we argue, one of us got killed. So actually, got nothing to do with the ship from Cagayan, but these 2 things we can learn here. The solidarity, the power of the Mengkabung people, the unity of the Mengkabung people. When you unite them, they become very strong. So that's the reason why this Mengkabung Bajau need to be silent. How to silence them? Let their history become obscure. So they cannot unite anymore. So they cannot become very strong. Another thing, the Bajau people, they, according to Spencer, don't marah saya, they doesn't like Pangeran Durau when he the nominal ruler of Mengkabong, because they just simply doesn't like Pangeran Durau. Another thing here is the Bajau is in open defiance, disrespect him and ask him to move to a tiny island which is in the mouth of Mengkabong. According to Spencer, don't quote me, quote Spencer St. John. And then, this is where I relate orang laut to Bajau, because Spencer St. John say, they appear to me to be very much like the orang laut, Spencer say. The Bajau and the orang laut appear to be very much alike, and who frequent the small island to the south of Singapore and above the Malay Peninsula. So Spencer St. John said the Mengkabung Bajau sama are orang laut. Similar, much. I think, you see, this is a positive note about the Bajau people of Mengkabung, according to Spencer St. John. I think that the bold spirit shown by these men, their love of the sea, their courage, might turn to good account under a steady government. So if you put a steady government in Mengkabong, that these Mengkabong people respect this government, then something good might happen in Mengkabong. Another information we get is from the literature we got from Henry Lingrod in a book dated 1896, but this Henry Lingrod book actually written by Howard Brooke, if I'm not mistaken. The Bajau people call Orang Bajau a kind of interim fishermen said to come originally from Johor. At the east entrance of Strait of Malacca, the life chief is small cover boards, coast of Borneo, Celebes, and adjacent. So meaning doesn't only exist on the west coast of North Borneo, they also exist in the east coast of North Borneo. That's why there is also a war between several tribes in the east coast, between the Seminole, the Obian, the Omadal, the Kabang. There is a Bajau over that side that fought against the Sulu on the east coast. And then we also look, the Bajau are scattered along the coast, the principal settlement being at Mengkabung and Tempasuk. So it's not true that only Tempasuk is the chief settlement of Bajau, but again, Mengkabung also a chief settlement of Bajau. At Mengkabung, they appear numerous and perhaps could muster 1,000 fighting men. They got 1,000 fighting men in Mengkabung. And at Tempasuk, they estimated their own number at 600, at Pandasan 400, and at Ambong there are a few. So I tried to find out where Henry Ling Road got this statement. There must somebody tell him this story. So we go and hunt the information. So we found out the person who mentioned this is actually Thomas Forrest. In his book, during his travel 1774, 1776, and he exactly said that the Bajau Sama origin are from Johor. But again, when I say from the very beginning, don't confuse. Oh, I'm from Johor, I'm bukan original orang asal. No. I told you from the very beginning, the orang laut already exists from the millennia, meaning 1,000 years, 600 years, they already travel. The only thing is during the existence of writing, 600 years, they confirm that they are from Johor. And here again, they also mention that they are come from Johor. And from this book in Putatan by Drampil, if I'm not mistaken, this book dated 1884, they call this Bajau Sama Johor alien race, you know. And then we try to find Henry Ling Road book, and we found the information are all here. The person who actually mentioned that is Sir Hugh Low. So all these statements mention that the Bajau Sama, of which in Mengkabong as well, or in the west coast of Borneo, are all a Bajau Sama. So when we look at the relevant, why the map Sulu only claim the east coast, because they cannot handle the Bajau Sama. Because this Bajau Sama in the west coast is even much more numerous, even much more fearless, and there are also an endless supply of warriors. So when we talk about endless supply of warriors of Bajau Sama, where they come from all the 11 sultanate, small tribe, orang laut tribe, who assist their veterans. So that's another story altogether. My family in Mengkabung were attacked by the Sulu. The entire hundreds of ships everywhere will come and rescue their veteran in Mengkabung. So now we move to Raja Tua, Mengkabung. So this is a story about Raja Tua, of which I mentioned earlier on. He was there during 1775 to 1700. The story of Raja Tua come from, or according to Cikgu Fatma, the story come from oral history from Mengkabung written by Pihin Jamil of Brunei. And then this Raja Tua Mengkabung actually managed to protect the west coast of Borneo from the onslaught of the Sulu. So he died in Mengatal. Some people say in Senorop, in Mengkabung. But he is a great warrior, a son of a prime minister, and he managed to unite warring tribe of the Bajau, the Dusun, the many tribe of the Dusun and the Bajau, and united front against other invaders, Iranun, Bangingi, the Sulu, But of course, later on, they also joined forces. So I just want to, a lot of people will ask me, hey, who is Raja Tua Mengkabong? Can you tell me a little bit in terms of their genealogy? So we do a little bit of research. He's a descendant of the Sultan of Brunei, Sultan Hassan, Jalul Akbar. He come from Jalul Akbar, Bendahara Anak Untung. And then this is Pangeran Temenggung. Somebody asked me about Pangeran Temenggung earlier on. Yeah, this is the Pangeran Temenggung. He also the naval warlord in the west coast. And people actually appointed him as the Raja. You know, that's the reason of this name of the Lost Kingdom. And according to Brunei, don't quote me, that this is their children, Datuk Temenggung, Datuk Tugu, Datuk Dilang. It could be more. And this is the current generation. I will stop there because somebody told me let the story stop there about genealogy. And then we move on. Okay, so this is the asset. Why we gather here today? Because this document not easy to get. It took us painstakingly to get this clear copy almost 20 years. My last talk, of which here somewhere around 2019, is it? If I'm not mistaken, Dr. Heng, I have a photocopy, but this is digitalized color copy. And the advance of technology is we can do this now. Thank you to my children. We press this one, you can see the chop. And when you press the chop, you can detect who is the person who actually signed the agreement. His name is Pangeran Jalaluddin. This information we source from British Library. The one who do the research name is Professor Annabel Top. Annabel Top. So this is an agreement chopped by Pangeran Jalaluddin, dated 1898, that cover Karambunai, Mengkabung, Mengkatal, Api-Api, and Kinarut. So he give the entire west coast from Mengkabong, Karambunai. So if you look at the map, the green color map over that side, that is the area that he gave away. Mengkabong, Karambunai, Mengkatal, Api-Api, up to Kinarut. Then we also understand why, because people will ask me, Syari, you show me this jawi, what is this thing all about? What is the translation? So, okay, we are not happy. We go back to London. We bring back the entire transcript. Hey, where's the transcript? Huh? Oh, this is the entire transcript. It's all handwritten. So meaning, we know for certain when they prepare a jawi agreement, they also prepare another Romanized agreement. The jawi is 1 page or 2 pages, but the Romanized one, how many pages? 12 pages. English and Malay. And then what happened here is, from that we convert into this, so it's easy for us to understand. In English and Malay, it will tell you a story about Mengkabung people and Inanam people go and burn Pulau Gaya. They will tell you a story about how Sultan of Brunei sue Chartered Company, and Chartered Company sue Sultan of Brunei. They both of them engage a lawyer, and among all the disagreement, the issue raised by Sultan of Brunei, you burn our kampung, Mengkabong, you burn Inanam, you arrest our people, you kill our people. That is the argument mentioned by Sultan of Brunei. Sultan, this chartered company say, you burn Pulau Gaya, you kill our people, you took away our money, and you cannot control your people, Mat Saleh. So this thing goes on and on and on and off. At the end of the day, in 1898, there is an agreement signed. But before this, according to Cikgu Padma, there is also another letter dated 1851. There is another letter dated 1891. There is so many other letters, but suffice to say, at this juncture, we talk about whatever document that we have in hand. So, who is Pangeran Jalaluddin? How can he give away all these places? People will ask. To current youngsters, they do not know all this. I don't want to know about this Brunei history, got nothing to do with us. But later on, I will tell you, we have shared history with Brunei for 600 years, and we just don't want to acknowledge that. That is sayang. Sayang to me, and it's a sad thing, because it doesn't mean that we say Brunei is great, that we have to know. That is history, our culture, heritage. We just want to know, we move on. It's not meaning that, we want to angkat kipas-kipas the Brunei. No, we just want to know the history. Your time is over. Same like the Sulu, your time is over. Now we talk about something else. So we go and investigate who is Pangeran Jalaluddin. Then we found another set of genealogy. Want to inform you, this genealogy we source from Brunei. So Pangeran Jalaluddin, if you notice there, is a son of Pangeran Rauf and a son of Pangeran Rajit, or son of Pangeran Anak Fatima. Pangeran Anak Fatima is the daughter of Pangeran Temenggung Pangeran Abdul Rauf. And who is Pangeran Temenggung Pangeran Abdul Rauf? Is a direct descendant of Sultan Hakumobil. Now relate the oral history, which is the Cermin War 1660 and 1673. So now it relates back. How come these two family goes to Mengkabong? Then who is Pangeran Rajit? When you look at Pangeran Rajit, he's the son of Pangeran Muhammad Daud, and he's the son of Pangeran Anak Rahman, and you go all up, is the direct descendant of Sultan Muhyiddin. So some people say this marriage is in actual fact to unite back the broken community. Broken in the sense that they unite back the two strong family in that area. But of course this story doesn't end here. I'm not going to talk about all this. I'm going to talk furthermore. But again, just to put into perspective, Pangeran Jalaluddin is the son-in-law of Sultan Hashim Makamadin, which is the Sultan of Brunei. Son-in-law. So that's the reason why he can get a lawyer to sue the chartered company. The chartered company say, if you sue me, I don't want to pay you 20 over 1,000. I only pay Sulu 5,000. So that is the argument. The total amount paid transacted plus the Sulu is 27,000 per year. If you want to see all the treaty, it's all over on the table. So now we move on. There is another treaty here, and ada kan ni? Okay. So this is the advantage of thank you modern technology and hyperlink. So we can check the shop who, because we read very difficult. With the advance of technology, we can tell who sell these people, who sell the bajau to the chartered company. His name is Sultan Hashim Jalilul Alam Akamadin, the Sultan of Brunei. He released with a condition. He say, okay, I sign this paper, but please release all the bajau. Please don't burn their house. Please give them freedom. If you do that, and then you govern them. If you do that, I will sign this treaty. So that's what he did. So another story here, for us to get the translation, we have to go to School of Oriental Study to get, this is, again, this Jawi, they also another Malay and English translation writing. And of course, we, School of Oriental Study, did a transcript. So you see here, all our history is kept there. It's exactly what Trotsky said. It's a paradox. There's a lot of information written, but nobody go and dig all this information, and nobody share this information. And this information is very valuable to our cultural heritage. This information actually fill the gap of the missing link of our history for almost 600 years. Of course, somebody say, oh, Shari, you talk about Brunei history. You always look at Brunei. No. I correct them. I am talking about North Borneo history. I don't touch, based on documented evidence, I don't touch what race. I'm talking about history. History is about historiography, about documented facts. Okay, we move on. Another interesting agreement found. A grant signed by Pangeran Anak Siti Khatijah. So we managed to bring back this document, and then we also want to investigate who chopped the agreement. So we thank you to technology, hyperlink technology. We managed to get a clear copy of the chop, and we link to British Library, and that is the chop. The person who signed another treaty together with Pangeran Anak Khatijah, none other than Sultan Hashim Akamadin. So I think the Brunei have enough of the Bajau Sama. I say, I give you to the chartered company lah. That's why our history obscure, because all this information kept by the ruling class. So normal people doesn't know this. They thought, masalah, but they do not know there are another segment. There's a lot of documented evidence hidden somewhere that need to be discovered. Then we also look at this chop. Who chopped this? Thank you to hyperlink. We found out the other person who signed this is Sultan Hashim Jalul Alam Akamadin, and on the treaty Pangeran Anak Khatijah, we found out the person who chopped this, the name is Pangeran Muda Besar Umar Ali Saifuddin. So who is Pangeran Besar Umar Ali Saifuddin? He's actually the son of Sultan Hashim Akamadin. According to our local expert here, Cikgu Fatimah say, Pangeran Anak Khatijah is the wife of Pangeran Muda Besar Umar Ali Saifuddin. Correct, Cikgu? Terima kasih. For your information, Cikgu Fatma also researcher of Mengkabong history.
Not expert.
Researcher.
Yeah, researcher.
And also written a few journal article for your master ke Cikgu? Master thesis, for her master thesis. We got another one who go for master thesis, which is Yusri from UMS. So this is the translation, and this is again another copy. So always when there is an agreement, there is always another set of agreement. That's why sometimes when you argue about the text, what is the Harap, the Jawi interpretation, the English interpretation, and the Malay translation, you will find three different set of clarification. So again, based on all the treaty, what we assembled, Mengkabong Kingdom actually is from Mengkabong up to Pengalat. And why Pengalat? Because Pangeran Raup go to Papar collect tax. Pangeran Raup from Mengkabong go to Papar collect tax. Even go to Kawang collect tax, if I'm not mistaken. And then when Kawang, they got another person there who take care Kawang. His name is Sharif Jair. He did complain to the Sultan, how come Pangeran Raup go to Kawang and collect tax? According to Pangeran Raup, those Kawang Bajau are actually from Mengkabong. So we know that the Mengkabong people are actually expanded towards the west coast of North Borneo, including Sembulan. If you look at those map with purple color, is done actually is based on 4 treaty dated 1877, which is a very important treaty. Why is very important? Because this is the conflicting statement between Sultan of Brunei and Sultan of Sulu. Sultan Sulu say the East Coast belong to them. Sultan Brunei also say it belong to them. And the Overbeck and then got confused. He signed both agreement with the Sulu and the Brunei, and then now we're having sound like a joke, but again now it creates big problem. The Malaysian government have to spend millions. I think our Datuk Yong here will be very good to explain this situation. It's not good for Sabah, okay, actually. But I also want to bring you all back to this green color area territory. This green area territory belong to Sultan Hakumuddin. That is a gift of Sultan Saiful Rizal to the mother, which is Putri Dungu, dated 16th century. So meaning territorial area already given to Sultan Hakumuddin as early as 16th century by Sultan Saiful Rizal. Of course, I'm not saying that we need to know about Sulu, we need to know about Sultanate of Brunei. When we touch about medieval history, just now I mentioned something like 12 sultanate. It's no harm for us to look at other geopolitical area where the history intervene. When I say history intervene, the Sulu descendant married to the Brunei descendant, and up to 16th century, the son of Sultan Hassan become the Sultan of Hassan's son. His name is Raja Bungsu or Sultan Muawalid Bungsu, became the Sultan of Sulu. So it confused the border. Since he is the son of the Sultan of Brunei, so he put his people to his coast. Definitely the father would not say, hey, don't put your people in the his coast because you are my son, you see. So the Sultan of Sulu, I repeat, dated 1600, is actually the son of Sultan Brunei. And that bloodline continue until 1936, when the last Sultan of Sulu died. And that's where we goes into another issue of Makaski judgment dated 1939. But we don't talk about Sulu claim today, we talk about Mengkabong history. So this is painstakingly collected. I want to share interesting story. Back in 1889, dated 27 of May, the chartered company visited all the villages all over North Borneo, and then bring all the warlords, the leader, the local leader, to a Duba. Duba means a gatherings of warlords or leaders. In Western Malaysia, Duba means the gathering of sultans. But in North Borneo, apart from several sultans, there is a lot of distinguished people. And this is their name list, you know. There are about 138 of them. First time go to Sandakan. These 138 are allowed to bring bodyguard, 8 of them, 8 bodyguard. And then they first time follow ship, sometimes first time visit Sandakan. And some of them, when they reach the port, they look at the ship, they decided, I better go back to Tambunan. They say they don't want to follow the ship, you see. So there is about 138 of them, the name is here. So when I talk about Mengkabong, it's not just about the Pengirans. I also want to touch a little bit about some of the local leaders appointed by the Sultan of Brunei before the British or the chartered company came. And their name is here. And this name actually published in the newspaper, the Borneo Herald. And this is the leader for Pantai Timur, the name list. This is the leader in Papar, Benoni, Kawang, Putatan, Pedalaman. You look at Tuaran and Sulaman. They got about 36 leaders plus another 16 leaders. They got 52 leaders in Tuaran, Sulaman, and Tuaran. So this is a great generation that vanished because the British probably, or the chartered company probably doesn't like them. One of the person that I managed to did a comprehensive research, his name is Pangeran Sabudin. He's a direct descendant, for your information, of Sultan Hakumuddin. And Pangeran Sabudin already exists during William Prettyman time and during Leicester time, which is 1877. And he actually helped Leicester, and he actually helped Everett, who replaced Leicester because an affair with Brunei princess. Don't quote me there, but that's what I read. And then Everett replaced him and came to like Pangeran Sabudin. And Pangeran Sabudin, in actual fact, among one of the earliest person who helped Chartered Company to establish their settlement in West Coast. Pangeran Sabudin go to war in Padas Damit, go to war in Papar, go to war on behalf of the Chartered Company, because Chartered Company doesn't have any army. When they send William Prettyman, when they send Leicester, and when they send William Pryor, those people, they doesn't have armies. What they did is they get a band of brothers, the local people, the local leader. They are the one who have been appointed by them to assist them to fight against any enemies. In Kota Belud, there is a Datuk Rumbangan also over that side. William Prettyman also got his fair challenge by one of these Bajau warrior by the name of Datuk Linte. So Datuk Linte say, since you are from the Western country, European country, how about we go boxing together? So boxing, and William Prettyman are known to be a boxer, so two of them boxing in the middle of the town, and somehow or other he make later on make William Prettyman decide, might as well I go back, later on. That's why they move the early station of the Chartered Company to Kudat by Everett. But this Datuk Linte, what actually happened to him? William Prettyman complained to Sultan of Brunei. So Datuk Linte got an invitation from Sultan of Brunei. So he thought, I better go to Brunei and see the Sultan. He thought he probably got a reprimand, but no. Sultan Brunei execute him. He died. So this is, you see, some of you could be from the descendant of these people, from Pangeran Digadong, Datuk Maharaja, Datuk Omar, Datuk Awang, Datuk Lile, Datuk Sinjawa. So there is not only Raja Tuak Mengkabung in Mengkabung, there is not only Pangeran Raub or Pangeran Jalaluddin or Pangeran Siti Fatimah, because these people are the nominal ruler, but without these 56 people, they cannot rule Mengkabung. So history always talk about the Pangerans and the nominal ruler, but history never talk about these people. Datuk Leslie, Datuk Sinjawa, Datuk Mirahun, Datuk Miging, Orang Kaya Inok. So this is the list of people who exist in Tuaran, Sulaman, Tuaran, including Mengkabong. And this is another leader local leader in Padas, Kudat, Padas Besar, Padas Damit, and Double Bay, Pulau Gaya. So you see, when you look at this, almost 200 leaders, we call them warlords. We also call them vassal. Vassal means there are a datuk with 100 followers, 200 followers, 300 followers who swear fealty to the nominal ruler. So 5, 6 of them, the Datuk, or 20 of these Datuk join forces. Okay, we will support whichever Sultan or Raja around that area. So that is the system of administration in North Borneo before the advance of European power. So, but a lot of people doesn't want to look into this history. Okay, now you can see Datuk Rumbangan there in Abai, Datuk Salambetan in Andrasan. Okay, this list, 55, I cannot find their name in Durbar, but there are warlords. Warlords appointed by Brunei, but they didn't go to Sandakan. I do not know why they didn't go to Sandakan, but some of them even are named Sultan Salembak, Sultan Sekoyan. So they got a few sultan and a few datuk in Kota Belud, you see. They got this Datuk Muhammad Sharif Shi, Sharif Duraman, Botokot, Pangeran Saliuddin, Pasang. So now when we see this name, we can categorize North Borneo history into three chapters, three phases. Local leaders before the advance of the European power, local leader appointed by Brunei or warlord or by nominal ruler, the Sharif, the Datuk, the Pangeran. Local leader during the Chartered Company, and local leader now after we joined Malaysia Federation. So there are three phases of a leader. So those missing history is this group of people. Their history vanished. So they don't even know who is their grandfather, they don't even know who is their ancestor, whereas their ancestor last time could be a ferocious, famous, legendary Bajau Mengkabung warriors.
Do you have a map of where they are?
Huh?
Do you have a map location of where they are from? Like,
Ada. You look at the name. That is their location.
yeah, but how do we know where Kolikan is?
That's why this is the name of the place or that present time, which is 1880.
But we don't know where it is now.
Of course, if we need to spend another, it took me 20 years to find this name list. So I do not know how many years. I pray that I can have good health, so as that I can go through each one of them. I saw Tandek there, you know, Tandek still around. I do not know where's the rest. Abai is there. Tigaman, Tambunan is there. Ranau is there. Padas is there. Papar is there.
Almost all of them are from.
Sibuku also there. Datuk Kabugatan, you know, Sibuku. According to Sulu belong to them, but there is a Datuk Kabugatan there. So who compiled this name? You see, is the Chartered Company. Why the Chartered Company came? You need to study the charter. 1881, the charter say that they must work with the local people. They must work with the local leader, but they didn't. Why? Communication issue, you know. These people have slaves, you know. They used to be lawless people. So many issues. So they decided they don't want to deal. And then that's why we got war. The first war, if you look at the first treaty over that side, actually happened in Padas Damit. The Mat Saleh War is later. The first war actually happened there. The story also written there, you know, over that side. So, we almost to the end, sorry. Conclusion. So for 660 years of our history, from 1363 to 2023, we have shared historiography with Brunei, share history. I'm not saying that this is the only history. There are other history, meaning the arrival of the Chinese community, you know, the arrival of so many other people to North Borneo. But this is one, not all. I'm not saying this is the entire history, but this is one of the. So we have shared history 660. So how long was that? From 1363 to 1877, for 514 years, we have shared history because the treaty dated 1877 is on the table. 4 treaty, not 1 treaty, 4 treaty. We also have a relation with East India Company for almost 15 years. We also have relation with American Trading Company for 10 years. So this is our fortune, you know, not Borneo people fortune, our fortune for the last 660 years. Oda, I mean, over back and then for 2 years, 1877, 1879, Oda resigned. He doesn't want to become Maharaja. He said he don't want to become Maharaja. He sold his share to the Dan brothers, 1879, 1881. Then there is a period of 10 months. We are under British North Borneo Provisional Association. We were under BNBC, British North Borneo Chartered Company, for 60 years. We are under Japanese occupation for 4 years. We are under British military administration for 1 year. We are under Crown colony for 17 years. And that is our fortune for 660 years, 600 years. And the last 600 years, we are under Malaysia Federation. So for the last 660 years, we actually never rule. Other people rule for us. So I do not know whether we have any independent or not. But don't quote me on that. I don't want to touch politics. And then the conclusion about this history, this today talk, is we need event like this to gather like-minded people so as that we can commemorate historical past. I thank you, those people from Mengkabong, those people from Kuching, those people from Sembulan, people from Kota Belud. There are the Bajau community, somebody from Membakut here, who actually interested in our history, and I thank them because this is a get-together of like-minded person. My uncle there from Sembulan, they say Sembulan got no Chinese, but that is my uncle Chinese from Sembulan, because 99% Bajau, only 1% Chinese, which is uncle. And where is my kampung man, kampung person? We need to start doing critical questions about our own ancestors. The Brunei have their own genealogy, and then we have now the Kadazan people. They start do a lot of what they call it family trees. Even the Chinese do their family trees. The Bajau likewise. I recommend to have their own family tree so as that they can remember their ancestor. And in actual fact, very easy. The moment you have 4 or 5 generations on top, the story, according to one wise man from Mengkabong who teach me about genealogy, they say, Syari, family tree from the belief of Mengkabong people is like rambat. They say rambat. The community is small, di atas kecil, tetapi bila dia kasih buang di laut, the branches of the family are actually this is our guest from Brunei, Persatuan Sejarah Brunei. Thank you, Tuan Haji. He came all the way from Brunei. Also, I would recommend that we preserve historical story, our oral history. Story about local pioneer, kampung founders, early challenges, adversity, success for posterity. Because if we are not recording our family history, they disappear. In Islam, you forget the name of your ancestor, name of your ancestor, they lose their credit because we need to baca tahlil for them. Since we forgotten about them, their bonus point in akhirat depleted, kurang. So we need to remember our ancestor. Other thing, we need to engage history in a meaningful and constructive way. Not argument, no long debate, but meaningful and constructive. We also, how history is mobilized in a way that both reinforce existing power relation, the quest of the truth and historical knowledge. A lot of people mati-mati say, my grandfather's story tell me like this, my grandfather say like this. We agree. That is very important, but please also check with fact. In order for me to be able to sit here, it took me 20 years to get a copy of all the treaties in the yellow book in the middle there. An event of owning our own narrative. A lot of people tell them their history. But in actual fact, I would recommend that you own your own history, your own narrative. you find your own history. When I did my first research of Sembulan village, they say, oh, that one is PTI area. There is no history. The early existence of Sembulan is 1950. I disagree. It took me 20 years to find stretch or evidence that I knew that Sembulan exists for the last 200 years. And we have evidence, we bring back the evidence. And the rest is accidental. Meaning I look for Sembulan history, I uncover the rest. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who attended this talk today.